community of Bangalore. Professor Ramchandra, as usual, was full of data and then some stories and all sort of things. Take you through what exactly, not only in the lakes, but in the other fields of the environment also. But I will mainly concentrate on the lakes, and that too also not on the technical parts, on the administrative part. Because after having about more than some 17 or 18 years of experience closely working with the lakes, I found that administrative decisions at various levels and at various times make a lot of difference. And whatever today it is because of all the things, it is because of the administrative decisions. Not to blame anybody, but it might have been thought that this is the correct decision at that particular time. Some decision has been taken, and based on that, we have reached at this stage where we are exclusively talking about the lakes, its performances in past, in distant past, in past, present, and then what may be the future. And with that sort of a thinking, I will just start it from almost 38 years back. What was the scenario? That was the time when I also landed there in Karnataka from Rajasthan. And at that time, in 1985, there was a lot of things it was been happening, particularly for the lakes, and that too also out and right allotment of the lakes for various purposes and all that, and making them the disuse, generally breaking the bands and all that, and then in the various names. And one of the reason what was being caught at that time was that there is a lot of malaria is spreading in the Bangalore, and lakes are one of the region to spread the malaria. So bridge the bands and then take out the water and then make it dry. Once they become dry, after that one all other activities has grown up and come up. And because of that, today this is the situation. So on those circumstances, there was one committee constituted. Most of you might be knowing it, the Lakshman Rao committee. And in that Lakshman Rao committee, they have studied some of the areas of Bangalore and around Bangalore also. Particularly at that time, there was the concept of the green belt. Now, of course, the green belt is abolished and there is nothing like the green belt around the Bangalore. So, in the urban areas, at that time, of course, I know it that there was a not full account of the lakes that was being given in that particular report. They have identified around 127 lakes. And out of that 127 lakes, there were 46 lakes which made them disused. There was no water in that. So in 1985 itself, out of the 27 lakes, there were the 46 lakes which were not having the water. If you really go to the history, slightly, I will take you slightly back to that one, that some of the tanks including our Sankey and then many others, Dharmabudhi and all that, of course, that is the period of Kempegowda first. There were always interlinkage with these tanks through the Raj Kalways, now we used to call it. Earlier there was the natural channels. And because of that, this urbanization, most of that, they have become the defunct, or rather it has been encroached and closed. And because of that, not having the water source to flow in those particular lakes or the ponds or the tanks, they have become dried, and subsequently the state government, with their own wisdoms, they have allotted it, allowed them to constructions and all sort of things. It has happened. Of course, there is no point to talk about right now. Now, if you really see it, the administration as such, there is the apex body now. Right now, everything runs through the courts. The stage has come. The courts has become the main functionaries to get the things done in the societies. It's not a very healthy sign. All these four pillars used to be called as a democracy. If they are not performing their own jobs and doing somebody's jobs, then this whole sort of the things it happens. And that is what exactly it is happening now. Below the courts, there are the legislation. They frame the laws. And those laws is supposed to be implemented by the executives. And below the executives, of course, the press and all that, it is being called. But I personally feel is that public is the another stakeholders or the part of the administration. So this is the four main categories, or broad categories rather I can say it, that all the administrations moves around these all four categories. And in that, is that some next one is, you have to put it, okay. In that scenario, after the Lakshman Rao Committee's report in 1986, there were some 5, 6 or of course there was some 13, 14 recommendations. Out of this, I feel it that there were the 4 or 5 recommendations which is most relevant at that time. And the same recommendation, even today's committees or the court orders, same thing it is happening, same thing it is coming. There is no change in that as far as recommendations is concerned. Means the problem what it was in there in 1985, 86, 87, existing the same things today also. There is not much improvement in that. And with that, there was one or two, some sort of, I will not, with all the due regards to that committee, which was been having very eminent peoples also, expert members and all sort of things. Of course, there were the 3 or 4 forest officers. They might have been influenced. There was one very prominent sort of a recommendations that all these disused tanks at that time counted as 46. The list is given in that one. They should be planted. And after having the plantation, slowly all those 46 tanks slowly get diverted in various activities by the governments with the wisdom. So, at that time, one sort of a recommendation made, I feel that should not have been there in that particular committee's report. It should have been that whatever the disused tanks available, which is not having any sort of organizations and buildings and all sort of things, should have been revived. And had that been process told at that time, there might have been slightly different thinking even as on date. But that is the past. It has happened and happened. There is nothing like to, at the time it was been thought that some greenery will come and there will be, now there are so many other water bodies that will be taken care of. But that has not stopped at that time. So from 1986, what the report it was being submitted, up to 2002, there was a lot of other recommendations. One recommendation was also there that some of the areas which is having good catchment areas and all that, there should be constructions of the new tanks. But that has never happened. I have not found any sort of a tank that has been constructed. Maybe the Ramchandra, he was telling that he has constructed something there in the Indian Institute of Science. But in the public as a whole, I don't think that after 1986, any tank has come in the metropolitan area or corporation areas. So, in 2002, then there was a lot of things it was been happening because of the allotments, encroachments and sort of things. The government came out, because always government comes out something when there is the big crisis. I am not telling only the crisis. When there is the big crisis, we always act to solve that crisis. So, government has formed the Lake Development Authority. The biggest problem of the Lake Development Authority was to give them the lot of responsibilities without having any sort of a powers. And they had their own wisdom with the help of some at the time forest department, because the forest, these lakes, as per this Lakshman Rao committee report, was handed over to the forest department. So they were having the custody of these lakes for near about more than some 15 to 20 years. And in that Lake Development Authority, they have given some management, then some sort of a monitoring, coordinations, development, all sort of things. It has been put it in for their preambles and all sort of things, but without having any sort of a powers. And it was happening. They were doing something here and there and all sort of things with not very good success and all. Subsequently, when this situation didn't improve, there was one writ petition it was filed before the High Court, 817 of 2008 by some group. And in that way, it was happening in courts, of course you know it. So, after that one, this reply, that sort of things and what it is happening and all sort of things. Basically that writ petition was mainly for that the Lake Development Authority at the time, they have leased some 7-8 lakes to the various private holders to maintain and develop their own sort of things. And then it was been found by the publics or by the peoples that this sort of a development is not conducive for the ecosystem and the natural course of these lakes. So that sort of a petition is been filed. When this matter went on hearing, then court thought that now there should be some concrete things should be done. So they have again formed one committee, Justice N.K. Patil committee, you might be knowing it. So in that committee, again, there was these members and all that, including LDA, it was been there. I was also there for a time being in that committee. So they have again submitted one sort of a report in 2012. At that time, some 300 and all sort of tanks, it was been identified by them in the committee. And that report was also having almost the same recommendations what it was been there in the Lakshman Rao committee. Almost the same, some sort of a changes here and there, and then how exactly it should be done, who has to do and all sort of things. So it was been happening at that time. And of course, there were so many recommendations, many things it was been there, so there was nothing, not much happened. Again, the things were happening in the same manner what it was been happening in the past and present. And there was again then started, I think, the contempt and all sort of things it was started. So they asked that let's form one sort of a exclusive law for the tanks, particularly in Bangalore and outside the Bangalore. So at that time, there were the two laws it was been, or acts it was been framed. One was Lake Development Authority Act, that was 2014. Of course, it came into implementation in 2015. And then this Karnataka Tank Conservation and Development Authority Act 2015. Both the acts almost came simultaneously within the span of 1 or 2 months. One was for the exclusively for the Bangalore and the corporation areas. Another one was for the outside the corporation areas. This Tank Authority Act was outside this one, and the Lake Development Authorities, it was within the Bangalore. So there was so many things it was being proposed in that those acts. Somehow those acts didn't pick up for a time being. Even there is a lot of things I will tell that where exactly the problem is lying with that one. Always we talk it that there are some 4 or 5 organizations which actually matters for these lakes, and there is nothing like the umbrella to actually coordinate it. But if you really see these acts, they are the real umbrella. The 2014, this Tank Conservation and Development Authority Act is having a body, a authority, which is not being chaired by less than a person who is heading the state, means the Chief Minister. And there should be some sort of a Chief Executive Officer, then there should be the authorized officer, there should be the designation officer. So this is all sort of things it was been there in that one. So with that authority, what it is happening is, let's come directly to the what exactly the action it should be taken and all sort of things, is that the only one meeting of that authority that has been taken place in December 2019. And there is no any other meeting of that authority. Number 1. Number 2 is, there was no any appointment of this authorized officer even as on date. Today also there is no authorized officer appointed by the state government. There are some designated officers which has been, I think the one affidavit it was been filed somewhere on the 1st of August of this month, that some designated officers it has been appointed and all sort of things. But the appointing of the designation officers itself won't solve the problem until unless there is the authorized officer. Most of these, if you really take that act into consideration, the courts comes in the last. There are the solutions within that act itself. Once suppose something is happening, the designation officer here, it has to take care of all sort of things what it is happening. Then if suppose somebody is agreed with that, it has to come the authorized officer. If there is the authorized officer, he also won't come to the expectations of the aggrieved party. It has come to the session court, district court, not to the high court. And when there is a failure in the district court, it has to come to the high court and maybe to the Supreme Court next. But what it is happening today is that things are directly going to the high court. Nobody is pointing out to the high court that look, this is all the things what it is coming before the high court is premature. Premature in the sense that it should have gone to the concerned other authorities, and after that one it should come to the last to the High Court, because High Court is at the third stage, but directly it is happening now. So the other writ petition, it was been filed in 2014, that is 38401 of 2014, which is still running. And the last order, interim order, of course, it is still pending. That came in 1/8/2023. In that one, some affidavit was filed by the Commissioner BBMP. In fact, that affidavit should have been asked to file by the Chief Executive Officer of the KTDCA, this tank authority. They are the persons who has to take care of this one. That is not exactly it is happening. And under that particular writ petition, the other thing is that there is one amicus. And amicus is Mr. Dhyan Chanappa. You might be heard his name. He is a senior advocate. I saw near about 109 interim orders has been issued under this particular writ petition. 109. Now 109 from 2014 to up to the 2023. You can imagine it that what sort of the implementation of those sort of orders it has been happened. So this is what exactly it is. I am telling it that technical part is one part, but the other part is that what exactly the administrative role and where exactly the administrative role has to play, at what stage, whether it is playing within the law, whether it is playing outside the law, or whether we are playing without having any sort of all sort of things. So this is what exactly I feel that that's the main sort of a problem now at present is that this administrative control, it should have been systematized and synchronized, is slightly not happening. I am not telling that it is failed, because the failure is something else. I have seen the failures also, but it was been there in 2005 to 2010-11 in the mining sector. It's not like that. But there is not that it should have been come up to some expectations. And I think today we have among us the officers from the BBMP and Planning Commission. I think Mr. Rajiv Goda, he is there. He is the man now. I think he has to sensitize these things that what that has been, this legislation itself has been passed is not getting implemented properly, and because of that there is not a single umbrella, and every arm of the government is not knowing what the right hand is doing, what the left hand is doing. So there is some sort of this one. If that takes some sort of take place, the things will slightly improve. This is my feeling. It will start moving, because any sort of a authority, if it is chaired by the Chief Minister and he takes some sort of a review, then definitely the things start moving. So I think that is the one sort of things which I found it. Meanwhile, what has happened, there are near about some 3 or 4 committees. One you might be knowing about the Seti Ramaswamy committee. At that time there was they have submitted, he has submitted, or the committee has, this was a joint committee, submitted near about some 2 big reports identifying near about more than some 13,000 plus acres of the land that has been encroached and all sort of things. And then Kolewad committee, you might be knowing about. Of course, I am not going all sort of things because of some sort of time and all that. Now, what exactly to cutting short all sort of things, what exactly the solutions for this, what I foresee about the solutions by going through these entire things. I found it the 5 or 6 recommendations. Can you last slide? Last slide, yeah. So after having going through this whole entire things, I found it that these are some of these, from my point of view, the 5 or 6 recommendations. Maybe 1 or 2 I left it because of some other things. I thought that Professor Ramchandra will also give some sort of this one, but that I will include. First thing is that always there is lot of, every department, everybody is having his own figure about how many lakes it is there in the Bangalore. There is no proper inventory. Why I am telling is that if you see is the Lakshman Rao committee, there is some figure. Lake Development Authority, there was one figure. Then Justice Patil report, there is one figure. Then A.T. Ramaswamy's report, there is one figure. Then Kolivard report, there is one figure. And I was dead today, Ramchandra, I was slightly surprised that he is telling only 193 lakes, live lakes. So there is no proper inventory for all these lakes. The first and foremost things it should be done is that how many tanks it is there. I have done some sort of exercise when I was there in the Lake Development Authority. As per my this one, in the all 4 taluks of the Bangalore urban district, there are 846 or 45 lakes which is used or disused, means the live or dead. Leave the Anikal taluk, that is having some 200 and plus. There are some, I think 600 plus lakes it should be there in the 700 villages. Particularly this, all the figures what I am telling is at 846 is based on this, what exactly it has been given in the village maps. Because the village map is the main address for any piece of land. And under that one, these 846 lakes, now these 846 lakes, the first thing it should be then how many it is live and how many it is gone or dead. That sort of a inventory I was about to do it, but unfortunately or fortunately I was transferred out from the Lake Development Authority because of certain other reasons. So that is the first thing. The second thing is that there was this Karnataka Lake Development Authority Act 2015. It has been revoked. It has been revoked in 2018, these amendments. And because of that, this whole the focus of Bangalore lakes has gone up, is not there. Personally, I feel that there is the lot of difference between the tanks which is outside the city areas and the tanks which is within the city areas. There are the different facts and circumstances. So there cannot be a single law which has been now presently it is for the entire tanks or the 36,000 or something like that, that is Professor Ramchandra told, that the one law. No, it won't have any sort of effect. There should be the 2 laws for the corporation areas and there should be another law for the remaining tanks. So this Lake Development Authorities Act, which was been, I think it came in the present regime, they may think to revive it. Then the third one is that this appointment of Chief Executive Officer. You see, I was just feeling it very sad that we do have the act, we do have a lot of sort of things. It is a special act, in fact. This Conservation and Development Act, Karnataka Tank Conservation and Development Act is a special act. And in that There is the chief executive officer. There is no exclusive chief executive officer appointed. The secretary of the irrigation department is having the charge for this one. You see, the secretary of the irrigation department is having the direct conflict of the interest. It won't go with that even in the natural sort of a circumstances. There should be some exclusive chief executive officer should be designated. That is up to the state government, anybody for that matter, should be there who actually functions. Because he has to coordinate so many things, including the convening the meetings and all that, where the chief minister himself is the chairman for this authority. So that should be, I think it should be thought by the state government that there should be some sort of a exclusive chief executive officers which is not having any sort of a direct conflict with the tanks, interest of the tanks. Okay, immediately.
We can bring these points in the back.
Okay. Then immediate appointment, of course, I have told is the authorized officers. Then the regular meeting of this KTDC, which I told that as per the law itself, it should be the 3 months is not happening. One meeting it has happened in 2019 itself. And then this is some sort of a policy decision I think the state has to take, is that development of the tanks should not be done until unless there is the STP for that particular tank is placed and functional. It will solve so many things. We have more than 68, of course, Ramchandra was telling, Professor Ramchandra, but as per my knowledge, there are the 74 tanks it has been developed, and in many tanks we know it, what is the stage and all sort of things. So, and that is mainly because of this ingress of the sewage and effluents, all sort of things it is happening. So until unless the first things, if suppose the state government want to develop any sort of a tank, there should be the STP. And now the STP of the secondary treatment, I think it has gone almost. We should come to the tertiary treatment until unless that is not taken care of. This again, the secondary treatment doesn't make much impact. In fact, of course, it gives the water some good look and all sort of things, but as far as this content is concerned, doesn't make much difference. So these are the some 4 or 5 points I thought that it should be, if suppose that is taken care of by the concerned authorities, there may be some sort of a change of the functioning, of the working, of the management, of the monitoring, of the tanks of the Bangalore, which is very much, I think it is required. That importance has already been dealt by my previous speaker, technically and all sort of things. So with that, I am given that now there will be some questions, answers and all that. So with that, I will just conclude with this one, that let's